Good day to you one and all. It is I, Justin Hawkins, and this is Justin Hawkins Rides Again. I'm talking about the Smiths today, very specifically The Queen is Dead. It was recorded in 1985 from their third album of the same name, released in 1986, and it was never released as a single. Why not? It's a brilliant song. Okay, I'm going to talk about it. Listen to it, and discuss. Justin Hawkins Rides Again. It was written by Morrissey and Johnny Marr, and the song features anti-monarchist lyrics that attracted controversy in the UK music press. Musically, the song was a result of experimentation and jamming, with Marr and rhythm section Andy Rourke and Mike Joyce using technology in the studio to enhance their performances. I don't know what that means exactly. Spin called the track exciting and acknowledged, "You got to admire a guy who can rhyme rusty spanner with play piano." It's a great lyric on this, actually. Just a little bit of information about the Smiths. They were formed in 1982. They are regarded as one of the most important acts to emerge from the British independent music scene in the 1980s. The Smiths based their songs on the songwriting partnership of Morrissey and Johnny Marr. Band's focus on a guitar, bass and drum sound with a fusion of 1960s rock and post-punk was a rejection of the synth pop sound that was predominant at the time. You know, stuff like Stock Aitken and Dennis Waterman, that kind of thing. Anybody who can tell me where I've borrowed the expression Stock Aitken and Dennis Waterman wins a very, very small prize. This plectrum. This generic plectrum that can be bought in any music store. Stock Aitken and Waterman, of course, were it was Mike Stock, somebody Aitken, and Pete Waterman, I suppose. They did all, they produced stuff like Rick Astley, Kylie Minogue, Jason Donovan. I think they did Dead or Alive, actually. Loads of stuff. But most of the 80s sounded like that, apart from the Smiths. Jungle drums, oh. Hear that swelling of a cymbal? I think this is what they're talking about in my earlier sort of research recital, using like electronic elements to enhance the performance. That's one of those things. It sounds like it might be, when you hit a cymbal just on its own and then you reverse the cymbal, it goes, instead of going crash, it goes crash. Or it doesn't, no, actually it just goes. The bass line's doing something like I mean, that could just be like, but it's not that, because it's the Smith. I'm truly sorry, but it sounds like a wonderful thing. I love that, hemmed in like a boar between arches, her very lowness with her head in a sling. I'm truly sorry, but that sounds like a wonderful thing, does it? Sounds like a wonderful thing. I've talked before about the phenomenon of the woe in recorded music. Here's a thing where there's a counter melody sung by the lead vocalist, but with a totally different sort of vocal treatment in terms of the way it's mixed and everything. It's a bit distant, it's off to the side somewhere with loads of reverb on it, and it's going, oh, 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 almost yodeling in the background. I fucking love Morrissey. I don't care. I don't care who knows it. I love him. I'm the 18th pale descendant of some old queen or other. Oh, God, he's amazing, isn't he? He's the 18th pale descendant of some old queen or other. Deliberately ambiguous use of the word queen there. He swears that he never even knew what drugs were, and then he breaks his voice in that way that people who are telling lies sometimes sort of falter a little bit involuntarily. It's almost like a poker tell, isn't it? When somebody lies and then something goes wrong with the voice as they're saying it. And he does that in his delivery of this lyric. Genius? Yes. Here he is again. Oh. He does this. Oh. Starts off solid and then gets a bit wobbly towards the end. It's beautiful. A massively underrated vocalist. I honestly believe that. Even though he's he's widely regarded as a great lyricist. There he is showing us what he can do vocally. Finesse, you see. Obviously the pitching isn't perfect, but that's part of that is because of the way things were recorded in those days, This is the 80s. There's no Melodyne, there's no auto-tune. Auto-tune. Auto, fuck off, more like. With a sponge and a rusty... Oh, here's that great lyric where he breaks into the palace with a sponge and a rusty spanner. I suppose the sponge is to deaden the sort of bright impact of the... not that I'm suggesting anybody does this, but if you're trying to break a window, put a sponge against it and then hit it with a rusty spanner, I think it creates... a dull thud as opposed to a loud crash. It will crack the glass and it will enable you to pick away at it and then climb in carefully to the palace. Somebody did that actually, didn't they? I'm not sure if he used a sponge and a rusty spanner, but he definitely confronted the Queen at some point. I think he sat on the end of her bed while she was... I was going to say knitting, but probably watching somebody else knit for her. And then... maybe she was reading a pamphlet on knitting. Yeah, she was reading a pamphlet on knitting. Some fella broke in with a sponge and a rusty spanner, sat on the end of her bed. Maybe he was inspired by this song to do that. I think it was in the 90s when it happened, but don't quote me on that. So I broke into the palace with a sponge and a rusty spanner. She said, "Hey, I know you, and you cannot sing." I said, "That's nothing. You should hear me play piano." I said, "That's nothing, you should hear me play piano." But he doesn't even try and make it sound like Spanner. He just says, "Piano." And here's another clever piece of wordiness. And go for a walk where it's quiet and dry and talk about precious things. But when you're tied to your mother's apron, no one talks about castration. So the strings, which would rhyme with things, is implied, and it's one of those things that you paint in with your mind, but only if you're listening to the song properly. So he's pulling people in to this lyric by forcing them to think for themselves and complete his sentences and his thoughts. I've written something that goes like that as well, in a slightly different way. I had a feeling that you couldn't wait to stunt. Why do I love you? Oh, you are such a cold-hearted man. That sort of thing. No one talks about frustration. And that hook returns. Oh, I'll never get bored of singing that. So you might get bored of hearing me sing it, but that's not my problem. For all of his brilliance, I mean, Johnny Marr is one of those guys who's really defined the idea of rhythmic lead playing. He's completely recognisable, even at a distance. And he's in this song, like the guitars are mixed pretty low. Like it's listening to this through the headphones, I'm hearing a lot of bass, and everything that Johnny Marr's doing is up in the background. I mean, he's sort of renowned for his soundscapery as well, but a lot of the sort of tricks and interesting effects seem to have been applied to like various incidental vocal parts that are happening throughout the stereo image. It's the opposite of what you would expect a Smiths song to sound like if on paper somebody described the Smiths to you and then you heard this. It would probably be quite startling, but it is, it's all about the lyric, and the lyric is fantastic. Here we go. Now it's Johnny Marr's moment to shine. Watch this. There's some sort of drone note, which is happening at the very beginning of the track as well. It just sounds like some feedback. Just let it go. Just let it run. Why fight it?
Life is very long when you're lonely.
It's true, isn't it? Life is very long when you're lonely. Not quite sure how it relates to the rest of the lyric, but what a truism that is. Is that wah wah? Still want the wah wah, to use a technical expression. Life is very long, and then a harpsichord comes in, is it? Something spidery with a lot of sort of a long decay on it. Might be a synthesizer of some sort. Oh, I'm dying to know what kind of synthesizer that is. Or it might be a guitar part. Maybe it's an acoustic thing with loads of effects on it. You never know with the Smiths, do you? You just never know. Part of the fun of it, really. It's sort of, in some ways, it sounds raw, and they don't sound like they've made a lot of attention to the actual performances, but the sounds are really difficult to place. There's magic there in these Smiths records. There really is. Beep, 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 beep. And then he goes, when you're lonely, over in the left-hand side. To the left, Morrissey saying about how lonely you are in the left. Sort of, this is what I'm talking about, rhythmic lead, he's sort of... It's like a... And then he pulls a bend out of nowhere. And gets back into the rhythmic stuff. Guitarists that play like that are capable of filling the sort of mid-range frequency void on their own. You don't need two guys to do it. It's a totally different approach to, you know, for example, AC/DC. But I don't know. I've always admired the soundscape guys. I mean, I would never be inclined to sort of look down, partly because my eyes are bad and also because I'm very, very lazy. But I'd be looking down going, what do all those pedals do again? Fuck, you know. I would need somebody like my long-suffering guitar tech Softy to press all the buttons for me. And even then I wouldn't know how to play with them on. It's almost like turning the guitar into a different instrument altogether. Because approach-wise, it's like a foreign language to me. I love listening to it though. The words that I would like to conclude this article with are as follows. Regardless of your feelings towards Morrissey's politics or, you know, him as a personality or anything else, I love his work. If you wish to challenge me on the merits of his work, I will fight you, stripped to the waist, just you and me, on a beach somewhere. From the waist up, stripped, not... So yeah, use the comment section below. Name your time, your place. It's going to have to be a beach though, I did specify that. Justin Hawkins rides again. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, and watch one of these two videos.